Oh, hey, it's you. You're just in time for another episode of PsychFlix. Come on in. And boy, do we have a treat for you today. I'm going to leave it as a surprise. Stay tuned. And welcome to PsychFlix. I am your psych host, Jess. I work as a mental health professional, which I guess gives me some credibility for psychoanalyzing these characters in these movies that you know and love and or hate. A real quick apology for the last 2 weeks. We haven't put out an episode for the past 2 weeks. Layne Levanway, who films all of these episodes, and we both had illness running through our families and our workplaces, and then last week I was out of town, and so we were not able to get the filming done the last 2 weeks. We apologize for that, but hopefully now we are back on track, ready to serve you. And as you can see, today we have Layne Levanway with us.
Hello.
He's the owner of this channel, this YouTube channel that hosts my show, Cine-Love. So he kind of forced his way onto my show.
That's right. That's how it works.
Yes. You're the big boss man, right?
That's right. I'm like, I'm not going to pay you, and I'm going to be on your show. That's how it works.
So anyway, we have him here today, and so that's the special treat, is having Layne Levanway with us. And actually, I am glad to have Layne here. I enjoy talking to him. I think we're going to have an interesting conversation, although I want to warn you that this week's movie topic was his idea. We're going to be talking about Twilight and Bella. And this was, I want to reiterate again, this was all Layne's idea. I think he's kind of obsessed.
Mildly.
Twilight and Bella.
Do
they have some kind of special name for Twilight obsession?
Twihard.
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 That's right. I have heard of that.
Twihard. Yep.
Yeah.
That's me, clearly.
So anyway, if you're a Twihard, you're gonna love this episode. If you're not, stick around anyway, please, because I think we're gonna have a really pretty interesting conversation about Twilight and the character Bella. So, again, I think it's because you had some questions about this movie, because you watch it on constant replay.
Right, it's the only movie in my house that we watch. So it's just, it's all I own.
Yeah.
Right, so I don't think much about the movie other than just the coolness of vampires, right? Until this show.
Vampires are cool.
Right.
Yes.
Until this show.
Uh-huh.
And then as I've watched you analyze characters and stuff like that, so then it got me thinking about this particular movie, or series of movies, I guess, just the Twilight series in general. The way it's portrayed in the movies is Bella comes off as a very obsessive teenage girl, and not that I know that teenage girls can't be obsessive, but she seems like dangerously obsessive with Edward. Mm-hmm. And so much that in the second movie, when he leaves her, she is willing to do dangerous, life-threatening of things because it gives her like hallucinations of her boyfriend, basically.
You wanted me to be human. Watch me.
Please. For me.
You won't stay with me any other way.
Ella, please.
And so then I thought, oh, this seems interesting. Is this normal? Is this, would real girls act like this when they have vampire boyfriends, right? So, and so then I thought, because of this show, it seemed like a good question to ask.
Yes, because I counsel lots of teenage girls who have vampire boyfriends.
I suspected,
yes.
But I know you're very secretive.
Well, I can't. It's all confidential. I can't tell you who.
Okay.
Can't tell you who the vampires are.
All right.
Or who their girlfriends are.
I can accept that.
Yep. So you're actually asking this because you think Twilight is crazy. So did I misrepresent you earlier? I apologize if I misrepresented you.
It's not on repeat constantly. That's
okay. All right. Well, I guess to talk about your concerns with Bella, first of all, I want to validate that you are right to be concerned about
Good.
Bella. Now, and you asked, I think you asked whether it was normal. Is this
Right.
normal what she's doing? And I want to make a very clear distinction here, and it's something that I tell parents all the time. When their kids start doing things that are concerning to their parents, and they come and they ask me and say, "My kid is doing this. Is that normal?" I get that question constantly. Is it normal? Now, most of the time, and I would say this is true with Bella as well, I would say, yes, it's normal, but normal doesn't always mean healthy.
Okay.
And so you have to distinguish between normal and healthy.
I like that.
An example might be a kid who's getting bullied and all of a sudden decides that he's not going to be a victim anymore. He's going to fight back. He's going to stand up for himself. The first time he stands up for himself, he might go a little overboard,
Right.
And the parent comes and says, is my kids now punching other kids at school? Is this normal? It's normal, yes. If you decide you don't want to be a victim anymore and you decide to stand up for yourself, and you might go a little too far. That doesn't mean that punching other kids is healthy.
Okay, fair enough.
So you have to work with it. And so there's lots of things that are normal but might not be healthy. And I would say that that's the case with Bella here. It's absolutely normal for a teenage girl to be obsessed over her first love, or for a teenage boy to be obsessed over their first love.
Right.
What was your other?
That she was engaging in life-threatening behaviors just because she would have hallucinations. Like, that's how desperate she was to be with him.
Yeah. Well, and I suppose one of the things that I'd like to mention talking about Bella is in our last episode regarding Into the Woods, I talked about the different stages of life development.
Right.
And I think that applies especially here to Bella, because Bella's going through some very important stages of life development. And it's those two stages of identity versus role confusion.
Okay.
And then intimacy versus isolation. And those are the adolescent stages of development.
Okay.
Now, one of the problems that lots of times happens is that kids don't get it in that order. That order is important. Identity should come first before you're going out and developing intimate relationships. You need to kind of know who you are as an individual, as opposed to identity versus role confusion. So if you haven't gotten your identity yet, you still have got a little bit of role confusion. You're not quite sure where you fit in, how you fit in. You've got this role confusion, and yet you're developing intimate relationships. That can be a little bit dangerous, like you said, and it can lead people to do some dangerous things. The other thing that I think is interesting regarding that adolescent development is something happens to an adolescent's brain. We all know that teenagers they're
Something weird happens.
something weird happens to their brain. The very first stage of development is trust versus mistrust, and that's where I talked about that in my video regarding Voldemort, of developing attachment right at that infancy stage. Critical to all future development. You have to have this secure attachment, otherwise you can't develop correctly in the future. Now then, when kids hit that adolescent phase, what happens in the brain is all those attachment neurons, there's attachment pathways in the brain, all begin to sort of reorganize themselves and open up opportunities for new attachment pathways that they develop with their friends and or a significant other.
Okay.
And so you kind of have what you see, and you see this constantly, and neuroscience has now explains why this is actually happening. You see teenagers suddenly they're very well attached to their parents when they're children, and then they're teenagers, and they don't want to have anything to do with their parents. They don't want to have anything to do with their family, and they're focused and obsessed on their friends, and eventually they're focused and obsessed on, someone of the opposite sex or a romantic interest of some sort. So and so you see that happen constantly with teenagers, and parents get concerned about it, and it leads teenagers to sometimes do some stupid things. Well, neuroscience explains why they're doing that. They're doing that because the attachment patterns they have in their brain are beginning to get reorganized and allow them to develop new attachments. And you think of an infant, they're developing these attachments, and it's a critical phase of life, but you have a parent who can take care of them and do everything for them. Now you have an adolescent, and once again, these attachment patterns are forming. It's such a critical phase of life, but they don't want anyone to tell them what to do, and they just go out and they do it all on their own, and they can screw up a lot. And so I think that's what you see is going on with Bella, is now she has, I think she was pretty well attached to her dad, her father, growing up, but now she doesn't care that much about her dad, and her brain is reorganizing itself, and it's just primed to attach itself to initially
supernatural.
Her friends. Yeah, to supernatural things. And initially it was her friends. You see her with her friends at the beginning, and then it moves on, and that's another very typical thing that you see. Is initially it's friends, and then it moves on to a romantic interest of some sort.
So is that why the first love can be so powerful? Because it's that first real strong attachment in the new phase.
Yes, exactly. You could kind of consider it like imprinting, like animals will imprint on each other, and then you have that. That's a connection that will be there for the rest of your life. And we get that with our parents and our initial caregivers when we're infants, and then our brain makes a way for us to then be able to get that again. And so whoever our first love interest is, it's something we will remember and will be a part of us throughout the rest of our lives. So what I think is actually kind of interesting about Twilight, and where in some ways they kind of show things accurately, is you see one other character who seems a little bit obsessive in his relationships, and that's Jacob. And again, he's at that exact same stage of life that Bella is, and he seems a little crazy.
And you need to know that I'm in love with you, and I want you to choose me instead of him.
I don't feel that way for you.
I don't buy it.
What don't you buy?
You feel something else for me. You just won't admit it. So I'm not giving up. I'm gonna fight for you until your heart stops beating.
What's interesting is that Edward seems much more able to just kind of, after his first initial infatuation with Bella, because Bella was unique, he'd never met anyone like her before, but after his initial infatuation, he was able to sort of step back and say and evaluate the situation and say, well, this is what's healthy and this is what's not, and I'm dangerous for you, and I care about you, so I'm going to go away, and that's what's going to be best for your life. And he seems to be able to make more rational decisions, and that makes sense because he's actually not an adolescent.
100 years old or something.
Years old
Yeah.
or so, exactly.
Edward, what happened with Jasper? It's nothing.
You're right. It was nothing. Nothing but what I always expected. And nothing compared to what could have happened. You just don't belong in my world, Bella.
I belong with you.
No. You don't.
And so he's kind of been around for a while, so he's not going through the same adolescent phase that Bella and Jacob are. So Bella and Jacob are really kind of crazy adolescents. Very normal, not necessarily healthy,
right.
but you shouldn't get, if you see someone like that in your life, if your kids end up kind of acting a little like Bella or Jacob sometimes, don't freak out. It's perfectly normal, but they desperately need some adult guidance and supervision and support throughout this process so that they don't do crazy unhealthy things like jumping off cliffs so that they can hallucinate about their boyfriend or girlfriend.
All right. Good.
Yeah. You do want, that's where you want to draw the line, definitely.
Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So, does that help at all?
Yeah. I like that we know why teenagers are stupid. Science.
Yeah. Yep.
Neuroscience has shown why we're stupid. Why we're stupid as teenagers.
Yep. There could be no argument now.
Right. It's our pathways.
Exactly. It's neural pathways.
Yeah, I think that was good.
Great. And so now when you have Twilight on constant replay, now you can understand what's going on.
Changes everything.
Instead of being like, why is she acting like this? You can be like, hey, honey, Do you know
I just
what
want
Bella's
to
doing?
I just want to nurture her and guide her.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, we hope you guys have enjoyed this. This has been a different kind of episode for PsychFlix. If you like this this format, please let us know in the comment sections of the video, and maybe we'll give you more of it. Hopefully not too much. I like my own space.
Right.
But yeah, we can get we'll give you some more episodes kind of like this. And again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel where you can have access to all of Layne's movie reviews as well as my PsychFlix videos, where each week I'll analyze a movie and a character from a psychological perspective so that you can better understand the characters you love and or hate.
Don't forget to check out Jess's blog.
My blog is The Unveiled Self, and you can learn more about different psychology issues there, kind of related to the movies that we're talking about. So, again, until next week, this is PsychFlix.